is the first obvious use case with RenVM is to have a decentralized exchange that's cross-chain. So yeah, we're super happy with that. I'm a bit about me. Just I'm Max. I joined about 1 year ago. I was just a community member. So yeah, now I mainly focus on governance and stuff and helping out with community. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Max. Um, I think Palace just gave a high level intro to to Varen, and maybe Linky can tell us a little bit more about Varen X and what it does, and after that we can basically kind of like dive into other topics, and maybe address some questions from the audience.
Yeah, sure. So Varen is the first product of our product suite. We we formed as a DAO out of a community. I think it was a poll back then, to really build a team that concentrates on bringing DeFi ideas and tools to life. And obviously, with me on the team, I highly recommended to build something on Ren, because we really felt that our strengths were lying in the bridge sector of DeFi. So we came up with the idea to, yes, use Ren.js, which is a bridging tool that helps you to bring native tokens from layer 1 chains, also called L1s, to Ethereum, which is also a layer 1 chain, and wrap them by minting their counterparts, which are like Ren Bitcoin, for example, is the counterpart to Bitcoin, and it's an ERC20 token, and you can then use that on the Ethereum chain. So looking at the DeFi space, we immediately knew that there's no point in competing with the big DEXs that won the race back then, which were Uniswap and Sushi, and of course 1inch. And we looked at our possibilities and our tools that are laid out in front of us, and which were SushiSwap, Uniswap, the 1inch router, which was open source and free to use, and Ren.js. And we kind of combined those pieces to create a DEX based on the SushiSwap UI that, as soon as you select your tokens, uses the 1inch API, which searches the DeFi space for liquidity for your swap and finds the best pair or the best trade for you. So we wanted to be super gas efficient. We wanted to be, we wanted to trade into the deepest liquidity possible, so that you have minimum slippage, and we want to be as fair as possible. So we set the API to don't lock anything out or give something priority. Yeah, then we added the possibility to swap from one layer 1 to Ethereum or to an ERC20 token, and also swap from one layer 1 to another layer 1 blockchain, which could be like any layer 1 that Ren supports, and this is namely Bitcoin Cash, Filecoin, Digibyte, and Luna. Zcash is also there. And what we actually do is we mint the ERC20 token, then we find the best swap for it, or the user can select which routes he want to go, and then we execute the swap. And if the swap is selected for another layer 1 chain, then we also initiate a burn. So Varen X is capable of doing mints and swap, mint swap and burns, and classical swaps. So that in a nutshell is our first product.
And those are put into a single transaction, right? We were able to do, mint swap burn all in a single transaction, which is huge, and which is what some of the efficiency comes from. I think Vikram posted a screenshot showing how, he was doing a swap on a couple bridges, including Varen, and Varen came out with the best rate. And part of that is because of the efficiency we built into the actual smart contract. So the basis of Varen X, which Linky covered a little bit, is user experience. The fact that a user, if they want to swap their Aave token to Dogecoin on the Dogecoin chain or Bitcoin, they don't need to, go to a DEX, swap it from Aave to Ren BTC, then go to a Varen, or go to a Ren bridge, and then bridge it across from Ren Bitcoin into Bitcoin on the Bitcoin chain, and we can do that all for them. And if they even want to go from Bitcoin to Dogecoin or Bitcoin to Zcash, they can go from Bitcoin onto Ethereum onto Zcash in a single transaction. So user experience is a huge part of Varen X, and I don't want to minimize how big that is of a step forward for the space, for this type of L1 to L1 native asset swaps. But in addition to that, we also did build a smart contract, which is able to take a signature from the user and bundle these transactions into a single signed transaction. So, we can do mint swap burn, in a single transaction, which is done by our smart contracts. And it's part of the reasons why we have this efficiency. And I just also wanted to speak to, Linky was talking about how we use 1inch to route these swaps, and that's also a source of our efficiency. A lot of people in Discord and in general have been asking us, what's the difference between this and Thorchain? And the big difference is, Thorchain has a similar UX where you can swap from L1 to L1, and what they do is they have these liquidity pools where everything is Rune, and you need exposure to Rune, and it kind of fragments liquidity, and you basically you have to hold Rune if you're an LP for any of this liquidity, and it really minimizes the number of assets they can support, because every time they support a new asset, they need liquidity for that asset. For the Varen X ecosystem, we're able to use the existing liquidity pools on Uniswap v2, Uniswap v3, SushiSwap, which are the leaders in the DEX space. We're able to access that liquidity and use that liquidity for our swaps. And, that's a real benefit where we don't need, like a Varen DEX native liquidity for these swaps, which I think long-term is going to give us a huge advantage in scaling by being able to leverage the leaders in liquidity depth for supporting our platform and our swaps. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there anybody who wants to add to that or react to that? Maybe Vikram or Max or XP1. Is there anything you'd like to add? You can go ahead.
I want to hear more from Vikram.
Yeah, I mean Vikram.
Yeah.
Actually, and maybe this you can dive into that. You have this really great article that you wrote. I think it was back in September about your interoperability thesis and how Ren fits into that. Maybe you can dive a bit into that and then kind of like take us along in your thinking of the interoperability space and how Ren and Varen kind of like would fit into that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Palace, just to touch on what you said, I think UI UX is huge for interoperability. And I think once we achieve that, and what you guys have been doing at Varen, that's really what makes everything click, I think, for everyday users, why this is important for them. So I guess on a high level, my general interoperability thesis, it's kind of based off of the original FAT protocol thesis that USV put out a couple of years ago. So for those who don't know, I guess like FAT protocol thesis essentially said that every protocol would likely do better than applications, and that has played out. The highest performers over the past 3-4 years have been Ethereum, BNB, Solana, Avalanche, Phantom, all those layer one blockchains, both in price, TVL, just projects, general attention. And nowadays we live in a world where nobody even questions if we're living in a multi-chain world, right? Like I think that's more or less taken for granted now. But the thesis behind that original thing in the FAT protocol was that investing in layer ones was the best investment because of two things. First being that there was a shared data layer, so stuff that you could read and write off of blockchains, and that would happen seamlessly. And then second is obviously, there's a token that I can speculate on. So that's something I've been thinking about a lot more is in a truly multi-chain world, what is that shared data layer? And pretty much always come to the conclusion that it always boils down to interoperability solutions. So it's kind of like, I could see a world where it's Cosmos as IBC, but Cosmos requires chains to actually join the network and implement IBC, and it's very highly engineered kind of opt-in shared data layer. And then we have some products out there that we can read data from the blockchain from many different chains, like the graph. But that data is read-only. We can't really write to it. There's no standardized way to write to it, at least. And then we have kind of the write functionality of multi-chain, but that's very much still in development, right? You have product teams like Polymer and Mover, and they're working on layer 2 communication, or L1 to L2. But it's all very early, and I think that the design space is really pretty wide open. And I think we're going to have to evolve our conception of at what layer do the best protocols and applications actually end up being built. And I think at this like potential base layer of infrastructure, that's where Ren and Varen really play, right? Like everything that would have to be built multi-chain native could potentially would be using Varen, or potentially other AMMs on top of interoperability protocols to achieve that end goal. So yeah, I guess like from an investing perspective, it's like if someone were to ask me like, I just want to invest in crypto, and they don't want to buy every single like layer one blockchain out there, like that's where interoperability is. Interoperability is literally like the internet of blockchains or the index of blockchains, right? So yeah, I just think it's really cool that these sorts of products allow us to bet on a future of crypto and not just a future tied to one blockchain. And yeah.
So that's interesting what you said there, like because you do see some like this, especially lately, this kind of tension in with the Ethereum community and other L1s coming up. Like, how do you see kind of like the multi-chain or cross-chain philosophy that Ethereum is going for with the rollups and side chains and EVM compatible stuff, and a more native L1 type of multi-chain world. How do you look at that?
Yeah, I'd love to hear everyone else's take on this. My opinion is that we live in a multi-chain world right now that could very easily turn into a multi-rollup world. Obviously, optimistic rollups aren't perfect. Like even to swap on Arbitrum right now would still be more expensive than me using a semi-centralized L1 like BSC or Solana. But eventually, yeah, in like 3 years, hopefully we have functional ZKRs. And I don't think any existing L1 will be able to compete against the best ZK rollup. That just technically would be pretty unbelievable if that happened. So yeah, even if we're in multi-chain right now, I think in 2-3 years we could easily be in a multi-rollup world. But regardless, whether it's chain or rollup, I think we have to get used to the fact that we are going to be multi-domain, and stuff that can tie all of that stuff together. That's where value accrues to, in my opinion.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. It's almost like it's like the next frontier of the FAT protocol thesis is like the interoperability layer and the application layer aggregating away these friction points of liquidity, friction points of user access, and building a layer on top of that where new applications can be built, accessing multiple chains, rollups, etc. is looking like where the future is going to be.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's always a question of like what the timeline is, right? I think none of this was necessarily like new information. Like everyone knew that ZK rollups were really cool, but there was like this window of opportunity for everybody this year to kind of get through on other layer ones and be like, hey, like this is what people can use right now. Let's just go with it. So yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of like cool innovations happening on other layer ones. Avalanche has like subnets and all this other cool stuff, but yeah, it's like I don't want to bet on a single one. I'd rather bet on all of them, and interop is a way to do all of that. So
multi-chain world is a reality.
Yeah, and I think there's also like critical mass in addition to innovation, like Solana. They're gonna build some cool stuff on there. They have the funding, they have the connections and exposure. Whether it be gaming or NFTs or what have you. Like some of these L1s, like it's very clear that they're gonna play a part of the future of the blockchain world. So they're probably going to play some role into the future, regardless of what that role of future looks like. And yeah, I agree with you that interoperability is what we should be focusing on right now, and likely where a lot of the funding, liquidity development is going to be going to. And that's why we're really excited to work with Ren. The Ren Labs ecosystem is extremely exciting. And then, of course, host to host is going to open up a lot of doors for liquidity and also for Varen, and Varen X to integrate with host to host and be able to, support a larger ecosystem of chains, side chains, and layer twos, and then also of assets that we can move seamlessly across those. So V1, we're focusing on the Ren bridges that are there today with those L1 natives, but we're really excited looking towards host to host and supporting those additional chains and assets and ecosystems as Ren continues to build out their interoperability.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe Max can tell us a bit more about host to host. Just explain, just maybe basic level, like explain like I'm five. What is it? How does it work? And what does it add to this is the interoperable multi-chain world?
Yeah, host to host is the term we use, but you can just think of it as bridges between all of the layer ones we support. I mean, we've so far only supported, you can bring Bitcoin to Ethereum, you can bring Bitcoin to Avalanche, you can bring Dogecoin to Solana, etc. But one of the biggest or one of the most used assets in crypto are stable coins, for instance. So people might want to move their stablecoins to a different chain, and we haven't been able to support that until now. Basically, we have a new RenGL, so we added support for those features in RenVM's backend. Those are on mainnet today already. So you could, if you wanted to, move those assets now. But so what host to host is, you can send your tokens to a contract on all of these different chains that RenVM owns, which allows you to mint a wrapper token on a different chain, anyone that you want to mint it to, just like you can send Bitcoin to a gateway address that lets you mint Ren BTC. So yeah, it's nothing complicated. What's cool is that you can not only sort of move stable coins, etc., but you can move, liquidity pool tokens. There are some use cases for that. If people want to maybe move their pool liquidity on, for instance, Curve on one chain, you want to move it to Arbitrum. You could move those liquidity pool tokens as long as there's liquidity for this liquidity pool token on the other end. You can swap it to the other liquidity pool token on the other chains. You can do that without sort of unwrapping and all of that. So you have to do it through Curve. Of course, it takes a little bit of work in the beginning to set up those liquidity pools, but that's all possible. And also what's very cool is that you can move, for instance, Ren BTC that's already minted on Ethereum. You can move this to any other chain. So very soon you'll be able to do this. You can do what's called a burn and mint. So it's a new transaction type that RenVM will support. So you can burn it on one chain and mint it on any other chain without having to unwrap it and send BTC. It's all handled in RenVM's state. It has its own smart contracts to keep track of so how much BTC is allocated to each chain that RenVM has an account on. So we're really excited about that. We're adding it to our front ends in the beginning of next year. You can already mint today through our demo site if you want to, but we don't recommend it because it might have bugs. But RenBridge will have that support soon. But another thing I want to just add a comment on the previous discussion that Vikram had. We have been living in a multi-chain world for a pretty long time. In a limited fashion, like we've used centralized exchanges sort of long before RenVM existed. So you can deposit a bunch of different assets from different layer ones to a centralized exchange, and then you can trade it to other assets, and you can withdraw. This is of course centralized, and you need to KYC and all of that. But sort of we have this already, and we'll have to. So the decentralized multi-chain world will still have to compete against these centralized exchanges because they might feel that their lunch is getting eaten, and they'll compete through better UI, better UX. Like they'll try to provide better services. Coinbase is launching lending, staking, all of these centralized exchanges. They're fighting for their future through their very big teams, and they have a lot of backing, a lot of money. They'll try to create the best user experience, and they have some edge in that they have centralized databases, so they can do that, and they can handle a bunch of the tricky stuff that you have to do yourself as a user if you're using multi-chain today. But our task is fighting the decentralized fight is to not only be able to do all of these multi-chain stuff and do multi-chain lending, multi-chain NFTs, whatever. We also have to build the best user experiences so we don't lose those users that don't sort of care maybe about giving away their private information. Like we have to keep those users by building the best UIs and experiences. And that's why sort of Ren is so excited about partners like Varen, because Ren, like, solving both of those tasks, building the infrastructure and building the applications that have the best user experience, that's two huge problems. And the Ren team decided that, we'll focus on the infrastructure. So having a partner like Varen, that's the dream, because then we can just try to build the best tools that we can, focus on that, sharpen all of that, and then give those tools to great developers who can create best-in-class user experiences. So yeah, and so like we announced our Ren Labs thing. That's part of that. It doesn't mean that we'll be focusing on building a bunch of applications. We want to use that to sort of turn RenVM into a proper layer 1 or layer 0, where you can have truly new types of applications that are by default multi-chain. They'll be able to talk to any chain, just like, by default, by just deploying it to RenVM layer 1, it will have these tools available to it. And then you can build completely new kinds of applications that you couldn't have done before, because there's too much sort of hassle for the user to have to sign a bunch of transactions on different chains using different wallets. The goal is sort of to abstract all of that in a nice package that developers can then take and do, magical things, solve problems that people have today when they have to move assets across chains to do their farming, or they want to trade and they want to buy a specific token. We hope that that RenVM layer 1 or layer 0 will be able to solve these things, and we hope that partners like Varen can utilize this to create to fight against centralized exchanges and stuff like that. Yeah.
I love the way you said that. Fighting the decentralized fight. Linky, go ahead.
Yeah, tools from people for people, right? What just or to maybe to explain or see our next vision for Varen X, which is Varen X v2, integrating host to host, is maybe pretty easy explained if you think about the mint and burn capabilities of host to host. So what our vision is that you send your layer 1 tokens to the RenVM gateway, and then after that, like you do right now, you select a second an output token, and our smart contracts and the Varen X D app then looks for the best layer 2 liquidity pool, mints your layer 1 token to that layer 2, for example Polygon, swaps it there for the lowest fee possible, and there's also another feature which would allow you to do that without having Matic, because obviously on Polygon you need Matic for paying for gas. This would be taking a portion of your send layer 1 token that you send to the gateway, use that portion of the layer 1 token for paying for gas, and then after swapping it on a layer 2, the journey of the token doesn't need to end. So if you for example want to swap Bitcoin for the Varen token, then of course you could do it like we do on V1 right now, by going from Bitcoin to RenBTC, from RenBTC to ETH, and then from ETH directly into Varen. But you could also go over Polygon, swap there to Matic, or go via Optimism and have Optimism ETH, and then go back to the ETH blockchain and then swap there. So you save one of those fees that you would pay on Ethereum to make it as gas efficient as possible. So, and we could, there's an infinite combination that is possible with host to host. It is of course a stretch from now, because we currently just started working on that, but in the future maybe we do a V1.5 where we support all the layer 2s that Sushi 1inch and Ren have in common, to have you like do what you do on Ethereum currently, also on the cheaper layer 2 blockchains. But I think the ultimate goal will be to have a very flexible and a D app with access to the wide range of all layer 2s and layer 1 capabilities that are out there. So pretty excited for what's to come. Not really only front end related, so we really have to work on the back end as well. But it is always a pleasure to work with the Ren guys, because sometimes we just need something they have to adjust in their framework, and so far they did so, which is a really nice experience as a dev.
Linky dropping the alpha as always, like he does in our Discord. If you're not in our Discord yet, you want some more Linky alpha, please join our Discord.
There's
so
no need of holding back alpha, is there? So like
no.
we always work like in the shadows and for ourselves. But if somebody asks like what you doing, I don't tell them. I will never tell them. That's nothing you should care about. So this is I won't show my code, but the idea is there, and I think we're in a DeFi world and decentralized finance world where we also have decentralized ideas maybe, and there's also a codex between every dev. I mean, whoever found something on Stack Overflow knows that we devs are here to help other devs, because nothing of our knowledge is exclusive to ourselves. That's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, you just said it yourself. Maybe I would like to open the floor to some questions. So just ask away if there's anything that you want to ask about Varen X, about Varen Ren. Vikram's wide-ranging interoperability thesis. We'd like to invite anybody up to speak on this and to ask a question. Don't be shy.
Did you ask the audience for questions? Was that it?
Yeah, the audience for sure.
Oh yeah.
Anybody from the audience
has any questions? Go ahead and come up. Looks like we have 2 people here, so I'll start bringing some people up. Yeah. Okay, we'll start with Mike. He's connecting. You probably didn't hear me right there. Hey, Mike, we'll start with you. Go ahead.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me up. A lot of very intelligent brain power up here. My question's actually kind of short. I'm interested in hearing just some general feedback from the team on Ren, related to why does the Ren team in their eyes believe that the price of say Ren BTC, the market price is that lower than say wrapped BTC? And then the second part to that would just be, do you guys see that being the case forever? And if not, at what point do you see that kind of flip-flopping? And then and I apologize, guys, I'm actually really sick today. So my voice is a little raspy, but
all good.
But yeah, guys, thank you.
And you
that's okay.
And you mean liquidity, right?
Rather it's a time.
Price.
Yeah. But I think I've always been a believer that it's maybe for another conversation, but I've always been a believer where the market kind of prices it all in, whatever it is. And so, with Ren, they're kind of seeing it. And if it's because my gut feeling, at first it's you're okay, what's the most essential thing? What's the, nobody's sitting in the middle, and then you find Ren, after looking through different and it's oh man, this is exactly what I was looking for. And then it's and then you you pull it up on the pricing, and it's what's going on with this pricing? What am I missing here? So just curious, guys. No right or wrong answer on this. Just looking for just just some insight.
Max, before you jump on that, maybe I can chime in here real quick.
Yeah.
So in the decentralized finance world with all the liquidity pools, price is always defined by volume and by the amount of swaps that are done. So if the price of one token to the other, which represent the same asset, in this case REP BTC to REN BTC differs, then most likely there will be arbitrage boards who try to get those prices on the same level. But funny enough, I'm just looking because I'm working on the Varen X Explorer currently. I'm seeing a transaction where somebody swapped like 1,200 USDC to Bitcoin, and what the router did was it swapped 1,200 USDC to wrapped BTC, namely 0.0244, and exchanged those wrapped BTC to REN BTC, and in this case from 0.0244 to 0.0245, and then minted 0.0245 BTC. So it made profit while it swapped from ERC20 too long, didn't read. Is that there's now possibilities or opportunities to like make profit on a decentralized swap by having a very intelligent router in the background, which is obviously not our work, but 1inch is one. But yeah, I also just tweeted the transaction I was talking about, so everyone, so that I don't have to ramble about it too long. But the person actually made some profit by swapping USDC to BTC via Varen X.
Awesome. So if you want to make some profit, use our router, I guess. So we had another question waiting in the wings, but I'm not sure if that same person has requested to come back on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have
Okay.
two more. So
All right.
Kaidu or Kaidao, you want?
Yeah, Kaido. All right. Thank you guys so much for hosting this. Quick question as well. So can you guys talk more about how you guys are integrating with the 1inch API, and also specifically how does that help you guys, to do swaps in, interacting with the Rent.js?
Linky, do you want to take that?
Yeah. So what the 1inch API enables us to do is, as I said, is to have access to all the liquidity which is currently on Ethereum. But as 1inch continues to onboard more layer 2 networks and index all the special or their specific decentralized exchanges like AnySwap or Matic Swap or anything which is out there, we are pretty, or we get enabled to use layer 2 chains, and currently I think this is the only trade-off currently using Ren.js. It's not for example for Luna. I know there's a Luna bridge out there where you can send wrapped Luna to from ERC20, and you get Luna, like native Luna on the Terra blockchain, or the other way around. While if you try to swap Luna to Ethereum or to any other L1 via Varen X, it goes through a Ren Luna Ethereum pool and ignores the vast liquidity that's out there for wrapped Luna on Ethereum. So we are pretty dependent on liquidity, and we won't do the step that LinkSwap did back then by providing pools for that. But we're heavily working on V2 with host to host to mitigate this problem and to utilize all all the liquidity which is out there by swapping to other layer 2s, for example. So 1inch enables us currently to have a very efficient router on the smart contract side, where we could concentrate on user experience, if that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you so much. And also, I think you got cut off before you finished the previous question.
Yeah, I just I was one of the first guys getting back on this call, so I finished that in short. So what I was looking at was a transaction where somebody swapped USDC to BTC, and the 1inch router went through wrapped BTC to REN BTC and utilized the price difference, which was which Michael bring up, and those, what it actually did was a kind of arbitrage trade without being one of those arbitrage bots, and lowered the price or increased the price of REN BTC by using the wrapped BTC that it swapped through from USDC. So the user made some profit on the trade, actually, because he utilized the lower price of REN BTC. So I think that is something of the intelligence that we're looking at with 1inch, is that they really go through all the different scenarios and look for the most cash efficient trade you can do. So that's pretty exciting stuff. And what we are working on currently is an explorer for Varen X, so that every transaction you do with Varen X can show you, or doesn't stop at Ethereum or at the Ethereum blockchain, but it starts on the layer 1 and it stops on the layer 1 that you maybe swap to. So if you have a trade from Zcash to Bitcoin, you can see where your Zcash came in, how many REN fees were there, and how many ETH fees you paid, and have you give you an overview about, was this trade cash efficient or was it not? And that's pretty important in my eyes for transparency.
Thank you.
Cool, thanks. Ace, go ahead and ask your question.
Hey guys, first off, congratulations on the rollout. I haven't made a swap yet, but I'm looking forward to making my first swap, hopefully pretty soon. Hey, I had a few questions, and I'm not sure if you guys covered this before I joined. I guess the first question is probably more towards the Varen team. What made you guys, why did you guys land on REN to be the cross-chain swap integrator as opposed to other options? And then second, what kind of usage or community feedback have you guys received so far, if any?
Yeah, take that first question for sure. We went with REN for a few reasons. One is decentralization. In contrast to some other protocols, REN's system works with validators of the REN VM system who stake REN, and there's many stakers, and we see it as a more decentralized system as other systems. Another one is security. The REN has never had a security exploit with that system. And if you take an example like Rune or Thorchain, I think they've had at least 3 or 4 exploits, 7, 8 figures, which really diminishes the credibility long term, especially when it just happens over and over and over again. So that's another reason. And then the final reason, which I think is probably as big as the other two, is the fact that REN is looking to build out this interoperability layer, like Max was describing, where developers can build new forms of application which have layer 1 interoperability built into them. And we're very excited for the Ren Labs ecosystem development over the next coming years, and we really look forward to being a part of that. So that was a big reason as well. And then in terms of community feedback, I mean, the community feedback has been mostly positive. I mean, we had someone come up with a bug where they weren't able to do some stuff on mobile, but you know, from what I've seen, it's been overwhelmingly positive so far.
Awesome, good stuff. And then maybe one question for the Ren team. Are there any features that you guys are developing that might get deployed in the near future that could further be leveraged by Varen and others?
So the RenVM to layer 1 roadmap, it's going to take a while, but so we have host to host that's been mentioned. You can do any token to any chain that we already support. I mean, that's rolling out as we speak. The burn and mint stuff, so you can sort of, if you have a wrapped asset on one chain already, you can teleport it to another chain, just a burn and mint in one go. You only pay like one fee that can be much smaller than the ones we have right now. So you don't have to sort of unwrap, burn, and then mint again. So burn and mint solves a lot of UX issues. And then of course we have we're still gonna add more chains and layer 2s, of course. Like we're looking to expand into. We have sort of Polkadot parachains lined up. We're gonna go do some Cosmos support as well, maybe Terra, the Terra chain, for instance, and keep looking out for layer 2s that are promising, like the zero knowledge rollups. Those will be a good one to also support. Starkware, CK Sync, maybe get Optimism and all. Like there's a lot of chains that still probably needs to get supported, because we live in a multi-chain world, and it seems like even if things are maybe chilled out for a bit now, like things are going to keep growing for a long time. So more chains. Yeah.
No, that makes sense, and I'm very excited and looking forward to what's coming ahead. When I made my first DEX transaction, which was on the Binance DEX, that was one of the things that I was going. I really hope they get to a point where I can use my Bitcoin on a DEX. So I think we're there now. So I'm very excited and looking forward to what's going to come ahead. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And then before we go to David, I know Haiti.eth, you got rugged and we're up here as the second requested speaker. So go ahead and ask your question.
Hello, guys. First of all, congratulations for the great product that you have, and for the launch, and also thanks to the team. I've been following the Varen for more than a year, and I think the team is very solid and good. I have a question for, I think, the people that would like to invest in the Varen. What would the Varen suit will give to the investors like me in the near future? If you can explain. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm a believer in tokenomics that do not just rely on governance as the value proposition, because there's a lot of those in DeFi, and it's often hit or miss in terms of whether or not those communities engage with that DAO and are really committed and see the value prop in that DAO. So VarenX has a very small fee tacked on of 0.05% of swaps, and with that fee and with any other fees that we end up having in a Varen product, 100% of the revenue will be decentralized. And that is in contrast with lots and lots and lots of other protocols or products in the space that do not decentralize their revenue, but the revenue goes to the team and they have a token anyways, and that token is primarily a governance token, and it's that's not what we're looking to build out. What we are looking to build out is one where 100% of all protocol revenue, wherever that may come from, is decentralized. And so So that's our value prop and our mission statement in terms of why you might want to hold Varen, is because as we continue to build out these products, that is, we believe that, if we're going to be a DAO and moving into the future where, regulators are going to be coming into the space, regulators are going to have a more active role in crypto in general. We are going to be sticking to our ethos that we are a decentralized organization, we are a DAO, and that our revenue is not going to a centralized wallet of a team. Our revenue is going to holders and stakers of our tokens in a decentralized organization format. So yeah, that's what I would say with that.
Yeah, just to chime in, as a Varen investor, we're looking at TAM, right? And the total addressable market here for decentralized exchange swaps is already in the billions of dollars. And there's no existing solution really to access liquidity across multiple chains. So just say back of the envelope, if there's $1 billion of daily volume on running through Varen, and there's only like a 0.5 BIP fee on it or whatever, or a 5 BIP fee, that's still like $500,000 a day in revenue that's generated back to stakers. So potentially large sums that could be run through the platform, and the market that this is addressing is huge. So it's all about weighing the probabilities.
Fantastic analysis there from Vikram and from Palace. Palace, do we have some more questions?
Yeah, David, if you want to go ahead.
No, that's okay. My question has already been answered. Thank you.
I maybe
All right.
what has to be added there is that we use revenue to buy back Varen, right? So this is we're getting REN assets as a fee, but they will be converted as soon as they're reaching a limit, and then they will be converted into Varen. And the current plan is to just deploy or to deposit it into the Varen vault, where you can stake your Varen for voting rights on the governance. And the longer you do that, and the more Varen is poured into this, the more your staked Varen will be worth in Varen. So that is something that we plan to do in the future, and to continue because it worked.
Cool. So if there are no more questions, I think it's a good moment to kind of wrap up this space. But maybe I'd like to, Vikram, you have, I think, of everybody kind of the most like a kind of helicopter overview of the space. Maybe kind of like you touched upon it a bit in the beginning of the call when I asked for it, but maybe kind of like take us into 2022 and beyond, and like how do you see this space developing, and how is Block Tower positioning itself in that, and maybe that that could bring us home and leave us with a bit of a kind of like kind of a window into the future.
Sure, I'll try my best. I'll focus on interop, I guess, because that's what I'm most excited about, and what we're all here for. So I guess I said in the beginning that really this space is wide open for development, and interoperability is where we can take advantage of a future, whether it's multi-chain or multi-rollup. Real-time normal users need a way to access what is DeFi, right? There's no easy way for anybody right now to access opportunities on every chain without being a DeFi expert. And we can't expect everyone to do that either. I think we have somewhere around, call it 4 million DeFi users. Well, then how the hell do we get the other, 500 million people, billion people into DeFi? I think we have to make it fun. We have to make it exciting, and we have to make it easy. Some of that can come in the form of most of it can come in the form of UI, UX, gamification of certain elements. But really, for all that to happen, we need foundational infrastructure like what you guys and other Run Labs projects are building. So yeah, the things that I'm most excited about, and what I think everyone should be excited about, is the ability for everyday users to be able to interact with DeFi and the entirety of crypto without having to use what we have right now, right? Like people can't be using MetaMask, people can't be waiting for transactions and like paying a bunch of gas. So yeah, and I think this is like a very foundational step to creating a future of DeFi that everybody loves and can actually take advantage of. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. I think I can speak for everybody here that we all dream of a gasless world. Thanks to everybody, all the speakers who joined us, Vikram, Link, Max, Palace, OXP1. I think this was a great space. We should definitely do this again the next time we have a product rollout. It was amazing chatting to you guys. Everybody listening, thanks for being here. We really appreciate you listening in and all your questions. Yeah, please head on over to Varenex, do your first, second, third, 100th cross-chain swap.